Now that we have a good understanding of what a polynomial is, what is the degree of a polynomial, and most importantly, what are partial fractions, or what do we mean when we say that decompose a given rational expression into a partial fraction. Now we know all these three concepts, which is degree of a polynomial, what a polynomial is all about, and what is a partial fraction. So now we know these three things. Let's combine all these three things to understand an important concept, an important but a very simple concept in the world of partial fractions, something called as proper and improper fractions. Like I said, the concept itself is very simple, but it's very important, and this will be the first checkpoint, no matter what type of problem you're solving in the world of partial fractions. The first step, the very first step at the top that you'll be checking before you start solving the problem is to check whether the given expression, the given rational expression or the polynomial is a proper fraction or an improper fraction. Based on that, your steps to solve the problem will vary, and that's why this is very important. And let's understand what this concept is real quick. In the world of numbers, if you take the simple world of numbers, don't worry about the polynomials or forget the polynomials for a minute. The world of numbers, let's say we have fractions in the typical number systems. Let's say we have 3 by 5 here. Let's say we have 3 by 5. So we know that the numerator is a smaller number over here and the denominator is a larger number. So whenever we have a smaller number upon a larger number, we call those fractions as proper fractions. That's what we call in the regular number system. Similarly, whenever we have the opposite of that, wherein the numerator is bigger than or larger than the denominator, for example 9 by 5, or even if the numerator and denominator are kind of same, like for example we have 9 by 9 or 5 by 5, those things are called as improper fractions. And then we have a mixed fraction where we break it down. For example, this 2 into 1 by 3, which is nothing but 3 into 2 is 6, 6 into 1 is 1. So it's like 6 upon, it's not 6, sorry. It's like 2 into 3 and 2 into 3 plus 1 upon 3, which is like 7 by 3. So this is still an improper fraction, but when we break it down into this format, this kind of becomes a mixed fraction where you say, okay, instead of saying 7 by 3, you say 2 and a 1/3. So we call it a mixed fraction where because it has got both the combination of that. That's what we do typically in a number system. So expanding that concept to the world of partial fractions or in the world of partial fractions, whenever we get a given rational expression, which is a ratio of two polynomials, we can identify whether the given expression or the given rational expression is a proper fraction or does it belong to a way of solving a proper fraction or an improper fraction. And what does it mean? The same concept. Let's say we have this rational expression where we have a numerator and we have a denominator. So in this case, the degree of the numerator is kind of x to the power 0. That's what anything raised to the power is 1. Anything raised to the power of 0 is 1. So we can assume that in the numerator we have x to the power of 0. So in this case, the degree of the numerator, top is the numerator, the degree of the numerator is less than the degree of the denominator. So again, let me repeat. The degree of the numerator on the top is less than the degree of the denominator at the bottom. So whenever you have such cases, just like the number systems, we call this as proper partial fraction. Another example is, let's take it here. If you see, the degree of numerator is 1 because if you just say x, the variable x, it is as good as saying x to the power 1. The degree of the numerator is 1 and the degree of the denominator is 3. Again, the degree of the numerator is, at the top, is less than the one in the denominator, right? So 1 is less than 3. So whenever you have this kind of degree mismatch in the numerator and denominator, where the degree in the numerator at the top is less than the degree in the denominator or at the bottom, we call those fractions as proper partial fractions. When we have the opposite case, we call them as improper, where the degree at the top is greater than or equal to. This is very important. People normally forget the equal to part of it. So the degree at the top, it can be greater than or it can be equal to also the degree of the bottom. For example, if you take the first example here, the degree at the top is 2 and the degree at the bottom is 1 and 2 is greater than 1. So we have that. Over here, if you see, the degree at the top is 3, the numerator. Okay, this is the top and this is the bottom, and the degree at the bottom is again 3. So in this case, both the degrees are same in the numerator and the denominator. So we have one scenario where the degree at the top or the numerator is greater than the denominator, and we have one example where both the degrees are same. Regardless of this, in both these scenarios, this kind of fraction is called as an improper partial fraction. And like I said, I put in the red. Always understand, for improper, the degree of the numerator can be greater or equal to. So don't forget this equal to part here. Okay, that condition makes it the fraction an improper fraction. Okay, so that's what proper and improper fractions are, based on what is the degree in the numerator vis-a-vis the degree in the denominator. Okay, and like I said in the beginning, checking if the fraction is a proper or an improper fraction is the first and the most important step before you start solving the partial fraction, because based on this category, whether it's a proper or improper fraction, the steps to solve a given problem varies, and that's the reason we should always identify whether it's a proper or improper fraction. And there's a quick disclaimer: this visual images that I've copied from this website. This is a good website. Sometimes I refer, Maths is Fun. So thanks to this website for providing with this images. So that's all we have on partial fractions, in which we discussed what are proper fractions and what are improper fractions. And we will see how to use them in detail in the next few videos.